All right, I guess we can start off with the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review not just the last meeting's minutes, but the meeting before that? I kind of quickly went through them. They look fine to me. Um, all those in favor of approving the minutes, just aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right,
Aye.
minutes approved. Next item on the agenda is, sorry?
Minutes. Are they both approved?
Yes. Well, yeah, that was, I think, how I phrased it. So,
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
no, that's all right. Yeah, I'm not quite sure if I said it right, but all right. Next item on the agenda is a continuation of the review of the master bike pedestrian plan. Laura, refresh my memory if you can.
I'm working with the, can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
I'm working with a consultant to sort of reframe the minutes, to reorganize them in a way that it makes more sense and keeps the like things together and is not quite as scattered all over the place. We'll see. But right now, it's in process. So
Laura, do we feel that we've successfully solicited all of the reviews, recommendations, and feedback, and that's been delivered, and we're waiting for the revision? Is that where we are?
yes.
Okay. All right. Is everybody okay with that? Okay.
We're going to have another discussion once we receive the new version.
Well, I honestly, if it's acceptable, I'm not sure we have another chance to revise. I think right now you have to trust me that I'm going to do the best. I'm going to get the best I can from that.
Hi, Oliver.
I trust you.
I mean, it's possible that we could do it and then I could revise it, but they won't revise it again. I mean, I don't think they were counting on revising it as many times as they have been asked to revise it as it is.
So, Laura, let me ask you, so when they revise it, will it be available directly to all of us?
I think the plan would be that they will revise it and then they will put it together with the full plan with the other chapters that are not recommendations chapters, and they will, there is actually one more, there's supposed to be a public meeting of some kind, and the question is, in this atmosphere where you can't really have a public meeting, if that will be like something on Zoom or something online, or I don't know if people have any thoughts about the best way to do like sort of that final public presentation and taking of comments.
Laura, can you check with Susan Steele, who's running the CPA, and getting comments on the proposals to see what ideas they might have? Because they're having larger discussions, larger community discussions.
Is she on the board, Susan Steele? I'm not familiar with her.
She's on the historical board.
Okay.
And she's also, I think she is now on the CPA. She's one of the folks on the CPA as well.
Okay.
She is on the CPA. She's on the,
I would.
but there have been some public meetings of different kinds. At the Watertown Citizens, there were 90 people.
Watertown Citizens? Watertown Citizens.
When they had the discussion between the candidates that are running for John Heck's seat and John Lund's.
That's not a public meeting. That's a nonprofit, private meeting.
Oh,
But it's interesting that they had 90 people.
yeah.
So let's see what we can do. You know, Laura, the other thing I was thinking about is this is first McMahon doesn't have a large following or a large amount of experience in putting together these kind of master plans. So
we hired them because they had done something they have done them before. This isn't the first
right,
time.
but I would not call this their sweet spot. And maybe that's something to remember, that if they really want us to give them a top-notch recommendation, that they might have to do a little bit of extra. I can't see giving them a top-notch recommendation going, based on what I've seen so far.
Right. Well, I'm working on that, but what are you saying, that you would like to have another,
I think we need another review, and just if there are any final edits that need to be made, I think they need to be able to make them. Because we are asking them to basically redo their recommendations in a way that makes better sense for the city, or Watertown.
they are doing.
Right, and so we need to be able to look at that and just see if there's any additional edits that need to be made. I think that can be done without totally stressing them. I'm not suggesting that we stress them, but I do think we need to get our money's worth.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Maria, you're proposing that when the revision is available, I mean, we're all going to review it again anyway, I would hope. And so what you're proposing is that we open up the possibility that we provide some final feedback.
Yes.
And sort of offer it to them. And it sounds more like a negotiation.
I think it might be, because I could be wrong, but I'm assuming that the results of the plan have to go before town council for acceptance, right?
Sure.
Yep.
So we want to have the strongest possible product, and one that meets our needs reasonably well.
Well, Maria, that makes sense if you look at this as a collaboration. You're right. It should be a collaboration of both parties, at least both parties, and the public, presenting a proposal to town council, and we want it in the best shape possible.
Correct.
For all concerned. Okay. So there's sort of a natural, organic sort of flow to this, is that when the revision's available, we're all going to review it. We're all going to have comments. We're going to come together in another meeting. We're going to want to talk about it. It's a matter of formalizing that. And so, we all get together at the subsequent meeting, talk about it. We can formally take notes of the comments, and then follow up by presenting that to McMahon, and strongly suggesting that it would be a stronger proposal to town council if we sort of tuned it up one more time. Is that
correct? That's
okay?
Basically what I was thinking.
So I think
I don't want that to fall on Laura for us to say to Laura, go off and make changes to a proposal that the consultants have made. That just doesn't make any sense.
So it sounds to me like the action here, since I think a lot of it is just going to happen anyway, just organically, because we're all pretty committed. I think the only real tangible action here is to sort of send a heads up to McMahon saying, hey, we want to push our collaboration a little further before this goes to town council. We want to be able to review and provide feedback on the final. And then from then on, it's a matter of negotiation, I think. Does it sound about right? I mean, there's no, I'm just trying to find an action item here so that we can sort of, just kind of close this item until the next time, if that makes sense.
Can I just, when is this due? I mean, when is this finished? Do we have a date? Laura?
Well, it's actually overdue, but in view of the fact that we didn't have, and it's not really their fault. I mean, I don't know.
No, it's not.
Well, no, it's the virus. I mean,
right. So since we didn't think that we were going to have a public presentation, certainly through the summer anyway, we kind of slowed it down a little bit. But we're in the final lap. We're getting there. I think it should be done by the end of the summer for sure, maybe sooner.
But there's going to be a time. I mean, you're going to make the changes and send it back to them. And then in that's no longer a draft then. And isn't it open to the public to read it? I mean, will it be available
Final
before this?
presentation, it will be open to the public to read and to make a final set of comments. So yeah.
Yeah. So that's what you're talking about, Maria, right?
Correct. I want us, they're going to send us a new version based on the comments we've submitted thus far. We should at least be able to review that version and make any final edits before we declare it final and we prepare it for presentation to the town council.
I cannot promise you that, but
I get it.
See how it goes. I'm trying to do my best. I mean, I am advocating for your position, which it was
I know
very
you are.
loud and clear that at the last meeting, and I felt that way too, that it wasn't really ready for prime time. It was too disorganized and not concise nor precise. And I talked to, this past time I took just to Christy, not to Natalie, and I think she understands.
Okay.
So any other comments on the master plan? Anybody else?
I have a question about the public comment. Does that happen? So there's another draft that will it be released to the public? And then what's the timeline in terms of when it goes to town council? I guess I'm just trying to figure out like the sequence of this and when there'll be an opportunity to either share it with the public or have some sort of public meeting for comment.
Are you asking me what month that will happen, or if that's
no, just the order?
Step. That is the next step,
Okay.
and it will be released to the public. We will post it on the website, and then there will be a final presentation and a chance to ask questions. And since you guys are the main people who will read it, you'll probably have the most questions and comments. But I can't promise that they're going to come back to you and present it, do one more draft, and then go to the council after that. I'm not sure how, I feel like they've done it and redone it perhaps more than was already in the contract because we haven't been satisfied. And like you said, Maria, they want to satisfy us, but I don't think they're going to come back to Bike and Ped Committee. That's not in their contract. So we'll figure it out.
Okay.
We'll figure it out. We'll see how it comes out. If you're still really dissatisfied, then we'll figure out how to get what we need.
So Maria, you weren't necessarily expecting them to come back to a formal Bike Ped Committee. You were just asking if they were open to receiving final feedback from this.
Correct. I mean,
okay.
Ideally, they would come back and hear our comments because that kind of closes the loop for them. But I'm perfectly happy being able to give them comments back for them to make appropriate use of, whether it's revisions or updates, or whatever we want to call it. But, I can live with that.
Okay.
Okay. Any other people have comments on the master plan? Okay, so we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. I'm going to hand this over to Amy. This has to do with the streets. Say that 3 times. Street Space Subcommittee.
Does everybody know you aren't on video, you 4?
Yeah, sorry. My video is not really working tonight. So can you guys hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We miss your face.
Next time I'll get it working. So I guess just an update, between our last meeting and this one, Maria, Sheila, Hannah, and I met to discuss ideas for what Watertown could do to sort of create more space for people to walk and bike during the pandemic and maintain social distancing.
Excuse me, Amy. Did you introduce Hannah?
Yeah, so Hannah's a member of the public who had reached out to Laura and Andy about this topic. So she joined our group. Hannah, do you want to introduce yourself?
Mute, you're on mute.
Oh, you're on mute.
Still on mute, still on mute. Hi, yes, I actually wrote to Laura, I guess right at the end of May, with some ideas and a request that Watertown do something to meet the needs of walkers and bikers better at a time when it seemed like there was a great need for space for that and perhaps a little bit less for traffic, and we were maybe seeing a sort of natural laboratory. And then Andy invited me to join this subgroup, and it also, one thing Amy didn't say was we also focused a lot on meeting the needs of restaurant owners and small businesses that are having trouble getting space to cater to people outside. So, and the economic impact of that as well.
Great. So I think the sort of notes from our conversation was sent out with the meeting agenda, but I can just give a brief update about some of what we talked about. I think we kind of divided the conversation into two categories. So the first one, sort of like Hannah mentioned, was looking at how to support businesses with outdoor dining. And outdoor dining is something that's allowed in Watertown, but we're considering opportunities for using some of the street space, like parking spaces or parking lots, or even lanes of particular roads for creating space for outdoor dining, and sort of brainstorm some ideas for where that could work well. A lot of them are in Watertown Square, but also part of Mount Auburn Street in Coolidge Square. And these locations that we brainstormed, it's definitely not like an exhaustive list of everywhere it could be possible, but hopefully it's a starting point for thinking about this. And then, so that was sort of the first category, outdoor dining. And then the second category of ideas we talked through was sort of how to create more space, either with this idea of slow streets, which several neighboring towns have done, to designate streets as like neighborhood slow streets and not allow through traffic on those roads. And the idea is that people who are walking could use the road and expect less traffic, and when there is traffic, for it to be going much slower. And then we also talked about some places where extending the sidewalk, maybe by narrowing one of the car lanes or taking over some of the parking spaces, could work. And then we also sort of at the end of that document, we kind of put some links to what's been tried in other towns. There's a lot of neighboring towns or other towns in the region that have tried this. So I think, right now we might be a little bit behind in Watertown, but the good thing about that is that there's a lot to learn from about what other towns have done, and a lot in the news about it. So there's some of those links there. So Sheila or Maria or Hannah, anything about that conversation those notes that I didn't mention that you want to add?
No, Amy, I think you did a great job. I would say, I don't know if we added into it, Sam made the point about Nichols Ave and making some parking space accessible for, what's that new restaurant there on Nichols?
Bodega.
Bodega.
Yes, thank you. Anyway, so I thought that was a good point also. And here's my thought. Watertown better get its shit together and move on this quickly, because it's the beginning of July, and let's face it, New England doesn't have a long summer, and it starts getting cold pretty soon. So I think Watertown really needs to act on this fast. I can tell you, driving around and walking around, biking around Somerville and Cambridge, there's a lot more accessible. Somerville has blocked off parts of Elm Street in Davis Square to make space for restaurants. So.
And doesn't Belmont have Leonard Street?
Yep.
Yes.
So Watertown really needs to act fast if it wants its restaurants to survive.
So Amy, if you don't mind, I'm just going to jump in here. So Amy, Laura, and I kind of talked, I think a week ago about this, and as usual, I mean, these are great ideas. And the next step is, how do you put this into action? What's the action plan? And we talked about that. And, I guess, that's kind of a general question I'm putting out there is, how do you put this in action? And, I'll start. For me, I kind of assumed that this would end up being sort of a collaboration or a coalition with, DPW and planning, and but that doesn't seem to be happening. And I'm not quite sure. I guess, well, Laura, we do have that meeting with Steve Lagoon and Gideon Thursday, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So for me, great ideas, but Sheila, the question is, how do you get it done? Who do you, and I don't think that the bike pedestrian can do this on their own. I mean, we don't have the leverage or the means to be able to, convince town council to do any of these things. So, I think a coalition is kind of the way to go. So, I don't know what people think around that.
I think you need to get a counselor involved. Do you have someone whom you know that you think would be involved in this? I mean, that's how. I mean, is there someone you work with? Or anybody?
I know Caroline is very interested in this
Yeah.
and has talked to me about it. But I do think that, if we do this in September, it'll be a little late.
Yeah, I mean, we need to implement, like, can we not send our suggestions to the whole town council
Well,
I mean, what's the
it's
change
always a
in
process. When you get a counselor, then it gets given to a subcommittee, and then the subcommittee has to meet, and they don't meet all the time, and then it has to go back to the. But I just meant getting someone like Caroline. I would call Caroline and just say, what do we do? And get some suggestions from her. And she has a voice, so she might be able to get things done.
Laura,
That's what I
we don't have
Ask her, what can we do?
but what?
Wait, one at a time. I can't hear.
So what do we? I get that we don't, but we came up with these suggestions a couple of weeks ago. It's now the beginning of July. It really should be implemented now so that the restaurants can expand their.
But Sheila, how do you get those ideas? How do you get the momentum behind those ideas? How do you get,
I would say it, but the town just has to do it. I mean, that's what Cambridge, that's what all the other towns have done. They just do it. They don't, they just do it. Somebody in the town takes responsibility and does it.
So I've been looking at a lot of webinars, and there was one particularly interesting one. I think it was about Rosendale Square. And these people that actually implement these, they're kind of like czars. That's kind of their role. We don't have that here. We don't have a point person. So, I think that's what you need to get it done. We can't change zoning laws. We can't have the DPW do things. We can't we can't have the police do things. We don't have that.
I know. I'm not saying we do. I'm saying the town needs to make this a priority quickly. And given that the town is run by a town council, I would assume it's the town manager or the planning department pushing it with DPW.
And how does the town manager get told to implement these things?
The town council tells them.
Right.
It just isn't going to happen if you go to someone in the planning department, if someone in DPW, they don't have any authority. They don't have any power.
No, but they can escalate. I mean, I'm sure, Laura, I'm sure Steve must be talking about this.
Well, that was the point of getting Steve involved, because he is the most likely, I thought, to support it.
Right.
I
mean, what does he need from us in order to move this forward? I think that's really the question. What does he need from us?
Good question, Maria.
Well, Amy and Andy and I are going to talk to him on Thursday, and I'm hoping that we can move something forward from there. It is really, it hasn't really been a high priority. obviously.
Well,
Would have happened. I
obviously.
mean, they did the
Yeah.
sidewalk dining thing. They did a expedited sidewalk dining, but taking the street is a little bit harder, and you've got some more conservative people, like at the police, at DPW. It's a little harder to. That's a
Maybe
tough-
we have to send the police to Belmont. Maybe they can go to Leonard Street. Do you think we could get them to go to Leonard Street? Because that's obviously a high traffic area. The street's not overly wide. And yet, guess what? They shut it down to one lane of traffic to save their businesses.
Has a fire
So-
station too.
And the fire station too. So if the police have that much power in Watertown that they are willing to risk our businesses, that's okay. Then we need to make that clear. I'm really sorry to be so undiplomatic, but this is ridiculous.
I agree. I mean, this is, I'm sorry, but if towns around the whole area can do this, Belmont, I mean, okay, it's not Cambridge and Somerville, which are, the hipster centrals, but Belmont, if Belmont can do it, why the hell can't Watertown do it? Seriously, Mount Auburn Street is wide enough to take some parking spaces and create safe travel spaces. Nichols certainly is wide enough.
I doubt if they do Mount Auburn, but Nichols is a good
Well, they can do Mount Auburn.
Mount
If
Auburn,
Leonard Street can go down to one lane
All right.
in one direction only, are you telling me that we cannot make Mount
So-
Auburn Street two
so-
lanes only?
So I'm going to be, so can I kind of retrack us? We're not lacking for ideas here. We've got a lot of great ideas. I think what we need to focus on is next steps and how we can get this, So the next step we have, the next action is the meeting that we have with Steve on Thursday. Does anybody have any other next steps that they think we can take to move this along? Are there
Yeah.
any ideas?
I think
Yes.
so.
Bob,
You need to, if possible, get Vinnie Picciarelli at that meeting on Thursday. He can speak to Mark Sedaris and get it moved. But I think that is the way to move it out of the town manager area to the council and then back in the most expedited fashion.
Yeah, if you think Vinny would be good, I mean, I think Caroline would be good too. But someone,
Vinnie carries more weight with Mark and
true.
with manager.
okay.
Well, is there any reason not to pursue both paths? If you think we
Pursue
have
both.
multiple counselors that will be supportive, just, if people have relationships or connections, just to reach out and share that.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree, Amy.
Talk to them, but don't invite them to the meeting with Steve, because then it's like the chain of command is wrong, and then the town manager, like Steve does talk to the counselors, but it's kind of the town manager is between. It's just not good. You'll have a much more frank discussion if it's just with Steve, but if you want to have your own frank discussions with the council, that's your, they appointed you. They're your appointing authority.
So would it make sense to talk about who's reaching out to who in terms of the council?
Based on what Laura said, the meeting should be with Steve, see where that goes, and then make a decision as to whether he's going to move it to Mike and get it done, or whether a push needs to come from the council, in which case you invite me.
Oh,
Bob, I agree, and yet I think parallel, it makes more sense for people to also reach out to town council members, so that by the time this goes from the meeting with Steve, there's already some energy in the town council for doing something.
I totally agree. That's a good plan.
I
Do
think
we
Laura-
know they're running in parallel instead of, again, it's going to be the second week of July by the time this is all resolved.
The problem is that, as Laura said, you don't want Steve to perceive that people are going around him. So if the conversation with Vinny or Carolyn can be off the record and not public, so that when after the meeting with Steve, they're already prepped, and then you can feed.
Yeah, that's what I mean by being in parallel.
So
Well,
I kind of
we have Caroline here. I just see Caroline's name.
we do. I saw that too. Sorry.
What does
Did I?
Caroline think, as long as she's here?
Yeah, why don't we
Caroline.
ask her? Why don't we talk to her?
I just came in in the last half of the conversation, so I'm not 100% sure what you said. What's the question?
So the question is, Caroline, we're talking about extending some of the streets in town to make them available to restaurants which are hurting. And there's a meeting with Steve Magoon about this proposal on Thursday, and the question is whether to engage you and maybe Vinny or somebody else on the council prior to that meeting, and then depending where Steve comes out on it, to take it to Mike, is the question of whether we get you guys involved or whether Steve can carry the ball by himself. So have I got it about right, guys?
Yeah, and has there been any, have you heard about this plan at all, Caroline?
So I didn't know that we were doing this in Watertown. I didn't know that I hadn't heard that we were talking about doing it in Watertown. However, I should let you know that Mark Sedaris has been a big proponent of the restaurants, and I think you might actually have an ally there. I mean, I'm fine with this. I think it's a great idea, but I think that it might, you might even want to talk to him.
Oh yeah, if you go straight to Mark, that's the best answer.
Yeah.
Because he's been, I don't know if you've noticed, but at every town, well, you probably haven't, but at every town council meeting where he's made a speech afterwards, he's always mentioned the restaurants. I think that you should, yeah, I think Mark would be a good person to go to.
Is
Absolutely.
there
any
Caroline,
active
can we get an item at the next town council meeting to bring forth our ideas about how to do this?
Why don't you just talk to Mark, who will
Yeah.
talk to Mike?
Again, that is definitely Mark. I can't do that for you. Mark controls the agenda.
Yeah, that goes through Mark.
Okay, well, let's go talk to Mark.
I think that's the best thing to do.
So my question is there any active opposition, or is it just inertia?
Does anybody know?
Who said that?
Susan.
Susan,
Since-
I asked. Just because if there's somebody or somebodies that are actively opposed, we might want a strategy to try to soften the opposition or find out what the concerns are.
I don't
Laura
know.
would know that. Laura?
Yeah, it's definitely, I haven't heard anything on town council, just so you know, of opposition. I mean, basically it's been because everything's been focused on the budget up until now. We had to pass the budget.
What about town hall, Laura? Do you know if there's any opposition?
I think I mentioned the departments that I think are probably less excited about the idea and maybe more concerned about it, but it's not organized opposition.
Mm-hmm.
And if Mark wants it, he will steamroller the opposition.
All right. So far, it sounds like a viable plan is that we meet with Steve and Gideon on Thursday. And after that, we kind of regroup as to how we're going to reach out to Mark. Does that sound like a way forward so far?
Do you think that regrouping is something that we can do by email or informally in between the next meeting? I just don't want to lose more time waiting for meetings.
Yeah, as long as we don't have a quorum, I think we can do that.
Well,
Do you think it would be all right, Caroline, to talk to Mark before the meeting?
Yes.
Send an email to everyone to discuss policy. That you cannot do. So I don't know how, if ones or twos of you can, like up to 4, I think, but you cannot discuss policy by email.
The violation of
Somebody,
open law.
somebody speak to Mark directly, one-on-one, and see where he is.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
as soon
the
as
best.
possible.
As soon as possible, right.
Andy, can I add a point?
Yes, who's that?
It was Hannah, but I'm not officially on the committee, so I thought I should ask.
Yep.
It sounds from what Caroline is saying that there is a strong push from the restaurant community to get help, and that they have Mark's ear, which is great. And our guideline, a lot of our suggestions are aimed at helping the town, but they're also aimed at helping the restaurant committee. And this meeting is public, and the recommendations are public, so there's no secret. And I wonder if we should be sharing them with the restaurant community to get them to call in a bit. That's an ally we're not talking about. And those are people who can scream and complain, and the town council is going to listen to them because nobody wants businesses shutting down. Maybe if we make that link directly. I don't know. I don't want to open Pandora's box, but I think we should think about that. So that was the idea I wanted to put out there.
It's a good idea.
I mean, I honestly have not heard of, well, I've heard of a couple of restaurants that asked about it, but didn't, I wouldn't say that they were screaming for it. But that's just what
So the question is, who's going to reach out to the restaurants?
What?
Who's going to reach out to the restaurants?
Well, I can ask the restaurants in my neighborhood.
Is there a business
In the
committee?
Coolidge Square area, I mean, Uncommon Grounds already has an expanded area, but I can talk to like the Thai restaurant and Red Lentil and see what their thoughts are.
So I have a question. Is anybody familiar with the Watertown Business Coalition? They have a meeting July 15th. Anybody work with them?
Nope.
Okay. Well, I plan on attending that meeting. I don't know what to expect, but
What time of day was that again?
July 15th at
What
9.
Or during the day or at night?
9 in the morning, the Wednesday.
You should have plenty of information by then.
Maybe Caroline, if you thought that was a good idea, do you have a sense of what the best way to get the restaurant community involved would be?
I would go through a business coalition. I would actually just go to a restaurant owner and ask, like, do you guys have a community of any sort? Are you communicating through Facebook? Like, just ask them how how they've been.
Have they organized themselves in any way?
Thanks.
So Laura, I'm not quite sure if you have an answer to this, but I've noticed that periodically in the paper there's a list of restaurants that have that had applied and got approved for sidewalk seating. What's the process behind that? Are the restaurants reaching out to the town in some capacity, or
I think like right after the governor announced that restaurants could have sidewalk seating, could serve people outside in the first phase. The town, let's see, it was mostly the planning department at that time, did a little, did like some quick regs, like to an application for restaurants to apply to get a quick review and approval, and it has been a pretty quick review and approval. But that was for sidewalks only, and there were very minimal regulations that included, you have to have some sidewalk area for people to still walk, and then the health department also weighed in with what they have to do about cleaning and stuff like that. And then the town lawyer, which is called KP Law, they did a quick, went over the whole thing and wrote it in legalese, and then so we created it. I would say it was probably within a week.
So I'm sorry, you probably already said this, but did the town reach out, or was it just restaurant owners reaching to the town? Which
I
way?
don't think the town reached out. The town, honestly, doesn't really know how. I mean, we sent something to the Watertown Business Coalition. We sent something to the Newton Chamber of Commerce, which has a newsletter that they put out daily. Unbelievable that there's enough to say daily. But other than that,
we had a communications director.
what's that?
I said, if only we had a communications director.
Oh.
Yeah, so other than that, it's just the usual channels, which is, you know, they send out a notify me to the people who get notify me.
Okay.
But who was the group that they spoke to first?
The
I know
Watertown.
the Board of Health had to get involved, et cetera.
What?
Who were the people? I mean, the business people.
Oh,
Where did they go?
who I think was the council. Didn't the council discuss it at a meeting, Carolyn? And then,
I don't think that, no, but I think she's asking who, how did they get, and how did they find out about it, and how did they know to come to you? Is that what you're asking, Janet?
Yeah, I'm just curious because this is what we're asking. How do we get this? Who do we go to? How do we get this to happen? So how did the businesses get it to happen that they could be on the sidewalk?
It didn't come through us. I don't think they came to us.
yeah,
I mean, this town is so confusing. Anyway.
I don't think it was through us.
If anybody wants me to talk to Mark, I can call him. I don't leave my house.
well, we could wait until after the meeting on Thursday, but Amy does make the point that it's hard to communicate outside of a meeting.
Well, when I talked about regrouping after the meeting, I wasn't talking about the entire committee. I was just thinking more in terms of subgroup and people involved there.
Andy, why don't you reach out to Mark and see, since you're the chair of the committee, why don't you reach out to Mark and see if you can set up some time to talk to him about it? I really do think that at the rate that we're going, you know, September is the likeliest time this is going to happen.
Yep.
Well, but the meeting with Steve and Gideon, that's less than 2 days away. So
that's true, but then, you know, if we go through the usual process, you know, and we reach out, by the time we reach out to all the various businesses and, you know, we look at, you know, how we can
so here's what I'll say
close Mount Auburn, blah, blah, blah.
So
That's
this
September.
Right. So this could be the official route, what we're talking about now. And if anybody else wants to do anything in parallel, they can do that as well. I mean, there's no prohibition to that. So,
yeah,
you know, we can go many directions at once.
I have a question that's not related to the expanding onto parking lots, and streets, but are restrooms in restaurants available when there's outdoor dining only? I was asked that by an older neighbor, and I didn't know. I haven't seen that particular fact anywhere.
Susan, that's a great question.
I was at Ritzy's East when there was outdoor dining only, and I saw someone coming out of the rest. We were actually just picking up food, and I saw someone coming out of the restroom. So I'm assuming they are.
Carolyn, have you heard of anybody any limitations in terms of the restrooms at the restaurants that are having dining out? And well, now they're having supposedly dining in if anybody goes, but that might solve the problem too.
I can say
People
that
are going in.
I was going to say something.
I was just going to say, when it was outdoor dining only, we ate in Waltham, and let me tell you, if Waltham can close Moody Street, we can do anything. And they were allowing people to go in and use the restrooms, or at least they let me.
Yeah.
Is that up to the town?
The restrooms?
Maybe up to the restaurant.
I would think they have to have that. I would think the board.
Yeah, I would think so too.
I mean, they can't serve dinner and alcohol without having access to a bathroom.
Yeah, my experience is when I go golfing and we're down the round, there's like a restaurant, and you're allowed to use the restroom if you wear a mask. Go in with a mask, use the restroom, back out.
In terms of expediting this process of making a decision, I think in light of the speed at which they did the sidewalk, I would think that if there was a will, that they could get this done, and if the town council vote is needed, they could have it at the next council meeting. I mean, yeah, it doesn't have to take that long if everybody wants to do it.
Mhm.
Right.
The other thing we included in our recommendation was a way of having a walking streets that is primarily focused for pedestrians that went practically from east to west and avoided most of the main streets. So that was also part of our recommendation, and I'm wondering what can be done about that. There are a lot of people walking these days. I mean, I just to see people in our neighborhoods just walking, which is wonderful. So if we could, if we could have an east-west kind of streets that are really focused on walkers, I think that, and maybe even runners, that might be that I don't see why we couldn't do that as well.
Since this is a regulation, and this would be a regulation change, Laura?
Carolyn, I think I'm not sure it would be a regulation change, but maybe we could accomplish it just with limiting access to those streets for certain periods of the day, maybe midday or something like that, or at certain times of the day.
I'm just trying to figure out if a town council vote is necessary. If we did something like that, probably it might be. I don't know though for sure.
It might be a traffic commission thing, but I think we're talking about temporary anyway, not permanent.
Right.
I think the issue you have to think about is the people who live on that street, and do they want you to close their street?
Well, I'm sure they would be able to get in and out of their street. I mean, it's just a matter of how do we reduce the rest of the traffic, which is for many of these streets is really not that much. I mean, yeah.
It would be a lot faster if it's not going through the council, because we've only got 2 meetings the whole summer.
Oh.
I
Okay.
think you also want to decouple the restaurant issue from this walking streets issue.
Yes.
Otherwise,
we're making, well, let's decide on what we're doing.
Yeah.
So Bob, good suggestion. So on the restaurant side, we're meeting with Gideon and Steve on Thursday. We'll follow up with Mark. I'll be going to the Business Coalition meeting. So that's on the restaurant side. What are the actions? What's the possible way forward with slow streets?
Well,
Bob, sorry.
I think in terms of the meeting on Thursday, we should try to talk about the slow streets as well and see, I mean, we should talk about them as 2 separate issues, but just see what the interest or what comes up in that conversation, and then figure out next steps. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Like it depends on what needs to happen in terms of changing a regulation or just a decision of the planning department or
Yeah, and
or what,
I think Steve should be able to give us some good direction on that. All right. So that's what we have for a way forward. The meeting on Thursday, following up with Mark, following up with the Business Coalition. Any other comments? Okay. Are we ready to move on to the next item? So the next item bike and pedestrian access at new schools. This has to do with a letter to the school building committee. Ethan, I read your revision of the letter. That's fantastic. Good wordsmithing there. Did that take you long?
Hard to say. Not too long. You did a great job starting it off. I love editing. I hate writing. So thank you. So thank you for making my job easy in that regard.
You know, well, yeah, nice polish on that. Yeah, I find writing to be almost physically painful. It hurts my brain. All right, so what's next steps on that? I know we talked about that last time, but I want to revisit that. So we have a letter. Has everybody reviewed the letter? Does anybody have any discussion around the letter? All right, so what should be next steps on the letter? Where should that letter go? Laura, do you think?
You know, I was thinking it should go to the school building committee, but CC the council maybe. Is Caroline still on? Caroline? I don't know much about the school building committee, but do you think they're the ones who are kind of reviewing the plans and everything, right?
Not the town council. Yeah, the school building committee. The town council, the only thing that we do is approve the funds.
Oh, so maybe it should be the school building committee and then CC the chair of the school committee.
That's where it should go.
Sorry, Laura, could you say that again? It should go where?
I agree.
Building committee.
Yeah.
Right.
The school committee.
Okay. Okay.
The school building committee is Ports, right? John Ports. Is that correct?
The school committee is John Ports. The school building committee is Mark Sedaris.
School building committee is Mark Sedaris?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so John Ports.
And I don't know, do you know if they're having meetings? I could find out from my colleagues on the climate.
There is.
Having a meeting this summer?
Hold on. Hold on. There
should be having meetings.
Yeah, I think they are.
There's a school building, school building committee on Wednesday, I believe, at 6:30. Is that what you're asking, Janet?
Yeah, is that this week?
Yeah, I believe, July 8th, 6:30.
Okay.
Are you going to attend?
School building.
No, but my colleagues do.
Okay.
No. I haven't been involved in the schools. But I think it's a good place to, I think you're right, Laura, that's where the letters, or Caroline, need to go.
Okay. So
Is the letter finished?
Yeah, Ethan sent it out. Did you get the email?
I did get the email, yeah.
Okay, all right. All right.
Yeah, I think once we decide who to send it to and plug some of that stuff in, it should be ready to go, right, Andy?
Yep. Yeah, we'll kind of go back and forth on that. All right.
Okay.
All right. So is everybody okay on the letter to the school committee? And then we can move on to the Wayfinding Advisory Committee, and I'm gonna defer to Laura on this.
In the parking management plan, one of the recommendations was to have a wayfinding sign program, partly to identify some of the public parking to drivers and visitors, but also to identify the points of interest, which includes the bike paths, which both, Watertown Square is very close to the Charles River path, and then also the new bike path that's coming from Cambridge and Fresh Pond is fairly close to Coolidge Square. So just to identify some of the major points of interest in the two squares, excuse me. So we were kind of moving slowly on trying to figure out how to implement that, and then I heard about a grant program from the Department of Housing and Community Development at the state that offered offered access to a consultant to do a design and citing of the signs. So, and we did get that grant. So we're hiring, I mean, they picked the consultant. We didn't have to hire a consultant or do an RFP or anything. His name is Mark Faberman. And I think he's done many, many, many of these, including Wellesley and Ipswich, and I'm not sure where else off the top of my head, but many. And it's a 5-meeting commitment. It requires having a review committee, and we have like one person from Coolidge Square. We have the Deluxe Town Diner owner, whose name is Don Levy or Levy. We have someone from Watertown Savings Bank representing Watertown Square. We have Catherine Madden, who is an economic development consultant, and kind of she's going to help with the design. And then we have DPW and the police. We invited Sergeant Sampson, but he declined to be on the committee, but said he would review stuff, and planning, and a representative from the Bike and Ped Committee. So it's a 5-meeting commitment, no more than 5 meetings. We are trying, most everyone can do it during the day. So if there's any way you could do it, if the person who's interested in volunteering could do either the end of the day or the beginning of the day or the middle of the day, we would try to accommodate your schedule, but we're trying to keep it during the day if we can, because it's a little heavy on the town staff side. So that's what it is. It's a plan, and then next year we'll make a request to the budget to get the signs fabricated and installed.
That's wonderful, Laura, that you got that. It's great.
So who wants to participate? Who are the creative people?
When are the meetings going to be? You saying?
Right. The first meeting is scheduled for Monday, July 20th at 3:30.
Mm-hmm.
That's, and then I guess when we're all gathered together, we can talk about when the next meeting would be.
Certainly for the summer, Laura, I'm free. Same with the planning meetings, Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm available, so I can do those.
Great.
Anytime during the day.
That's during the year. Okay.
During the school year, I'm home with the kids Tuesday, Thursday, so I can juggle them and make any time work. And then over the summer, I'm pretty much available whenever.
And I guess if it's Zoom, that makes it easier, right?
Makes it a hell of a lot easier for me, for sure. If it aligns with nap time, I'm even more available.
Well, I mean, I think we would talk about that, as I said, on Monday the 20th, we'll talk about when the next meeting should be.
For the ease of me being available, I can do it.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone else wants to, but I can do it time-wise.
Anybody else have an interest, or should we just go with Oliver?
Thank you, Oliver.
Thank you, Oliver.
And thank you, Laura, for the reminder about the next town planning meeting thing, development meeting thing.
Yeah, I don't think I put that on the agenda, but just letting people know that the Galen Street project, which is a pretty big one, is coming to the site plan review at the end of this month, and there will be a public meeting, probably August or September on that.
All right. Again, thanks, Oliver. So we're on to new business. Is there any new business that anybody wants to bring up? Janet, can I ask, you were at the WFCC meeting, was it last Sunday or 2 Sundays ago?
Mm-hmm. Last Sunday.
Last Sunday,
They didn't discuss the transportation.
Okay, all right, okay. All right, so no, yeah?
One new business. Could we add on the agenda for our next meeting, talking about vehicles blocking the sidewalk? As we go around and we walk around town, I know that in my walks around town, I see on many streets vehicles blocking the sidewalk. In other words, they're parked either because there is no defined start to the sidewalk. They'll park up on the sidewalk, so they'll have two wheels on a sidewalk or one wheel on a sidewalk. Other places, we have instances where the cars are parked in a driveway, but they go out 2/3 of the way into the sidewalk. And the other thing I'm noticing is that even though we also have an ordinance requiring people to trim their hedges, hedges are now incurring well into the sidewalk. So if we're encouraging people to walk, you know, in distance, and we want to encourage everyone to do so regardless of ability, then our sidewalks need to be available. So is there any way that we could have a discussion next month? Even though by then it'll be August, but hopefully people will be walking into the fall, about what we can do about this. And I would ask people that when they're out walking to take note of where you're seeing, you know, and it's especially true in the morning or in the evening when people are more at home. You'll see cars blocking sideways and hedges. Well, the hedges are there all the time, but you know what I mean.
Maria, could this be tied into the street space proposal?
I think we already have ordinances in town. I just want to know. I mean,
this would be part of. Yeah, I mean, I could see this as being part and parcel of the whole street space initiative, and that there'd be more leverage behind it that way. If it was kind of a formalized program under that.
Well, that's fine. I'm just wondering if there's anything we can do.
I have to agree with you in that case, because I think what we're talking about is temporary stuff with space, and I think it's zoning, and I think we could just send an email to the zoning enforcement officer. Now, I think blocking the sidewalk is hard because by the time the zoning enforcement officer gets there, it might not still be blocking. It might be,
yeah.
but the hedges definitely. It just
I think, you know, if you go out on a walk, like maybe I've just been there at the right time, you know, let's say 7 o'clock in the morning, there's on almost every street I walk, there's at least 1, 2, 3 cars that are blocking the sidewalks.
That's
and
all
I don't think you can.
Against the law. They're not supposed to be doing that. That's why Mr. Mancini, you can call, I would call them, Mike Mena and Mr. Mancini actually do a pretty good job trying to keep up with that, especially with the hedges, but you can call them.
Okay. I'm just wondering if there's a way for them to be more proactive? I mean, is there a way that, you know, they can drive around town or look, because
they actually do that. They
okay.
Just, you know, yeah. In fact, I just sort of was trying to go between a family that got a ticket for because they do go around town, and you know, and the code enforcement. They're very reasonable, but they do go around town trying to enforce these things. It's a lot easier for them to do the plantings that are blocking the way.
Right. They don't move.
Than the odd car, but
right.
I thought it was very helpful.
What?
I thought it was very helpful that the newsletter that came with the property tax bill indicated the homeowner's responsibility to do the hedge clearing.
I didn't read it carefully, but it also happens more in the winter when the cars are out the driveway and hang over. And we've had some people who do that all the time in our neighborhood, and Deb and I have called, and they come, but they keep doing it, you know. And if they get a ticket, then they sort of are careful about it. It's a good point, Maria, because it doesn't encourage walking if you have impediments.
Can I just say that it's about time that Watertown does something like a 311 call center that allows people to report things more quickly.
Communications.
So this relates a bit to the sidewalk snow removal
Yes.
committee that we're working on, and the mechanism for reporting of unshoveled sidewalks, but also things like this. I
Right.
think we need to sort of look at that. C-Click Fix would be
Yes.
a vehicle. Right now, it's not working at all because it's not accessible through the town website. But apparently, with the new IT person, they're hoping to get that up and running. Then we may be able to use it for more things. We'll make I think we'll make it, with Andy's permission, a report on sidewalk snow removal at our next meeting.
That's fine. Is there anything else we can do? Andy, when you talk to Steve on Thursday, could you bring up about maybe, is there anything we can do to have a higher presence on this? Because honestly, I see the same cars at the same space, the same driveways or the same streets blocking. And I think about people who are on wheelchairs. We know them, you know, or people who are differently abled. We want to encourage them to be out, or people with kids, you know, and they're out for a walk. And I don't know. I just think it's thoughtless.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Right. Any other new business? Any comments? Points of discussion? Anybody?
I would add a comment building on Maria's. I can tell you the house numbers of the people on our street. It is always the same people.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten to the point of calling the police non-emergency number, but I have on other things, and they will come out and they will ticket, but that doesn't make you friends and it doesn't solve the problem long term. One thing I did talk with Gideon about this related to visibility for a crossing in front of a new development that was about to be getting permitted. And he said the town is working on putting in, every time they redo a street, putting in proper curbs so that you won't be able to, or at least it'll be much less easy and tempting to do that two-wheel on the sidewalk thing. But he didn't talk about we have space for 2 cars, but we haven't really pulled them up, and now we have a 3rd car, so we're going to hang over the sidewalk part. So my thought on that would be, I think this is actually the 2nd year that there's been something in the property tax insert about trimming your bushes.
Mm-hmm.
If we ask to put something, you must trim your bushes and also keep the space free of cars, then it would be a little bit easier when someone does get an enforcement call. They can't say, gosh, goodness, I never knew that rule. It's like, well, you actually got that every 3 months, or you got that every summer. So you kind of had your warning. I think it might be a way to raise the profile of it a little bit.
Well, keep in mind that it's only homeowners that get that insert, not the renters. I mean, it doesn't mean it's not worth, that it isn't helpful, but the number of people it goes to, the percentage is limited.
And Hannah, can't you call?
Since you're new to this, that it's a zoning issue, so the person is the zoning enforcement officer, not the police, and you really could just write an email if there's someone in particular that's bothering you. His name is Mike Mena, M-E-N-A, so it would be M-M-E-N-A at watertown-ma.gov, and just try that. It's much easier, less threatening than calling the police.
But I also think you don't have to tell them who you are. You can ask the enforcement person to drive by.
Yep.
And then they don't have to know that it's you who called. Same, I don't think the police. I
mean, the police is just a different level of,
Right, exactly. And this is the guy who's supposed to enforce these things, and I'm sure he'd be helpful.
Yeah.
He's very good.
He's very good.
He's been very helpful for me around snow removal around on Dexter Avenue.
Yeah,
So,
I remember your story. Yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so on a very different note, anybody want this book, The Art of Cycling? I've read it. I need to get rid of things. I'm moving. So if anybody
You
wants,
are? Or where are you moving? To Somerville or Watertown?
I'm trying to go to Watertown.
Great.
Everybody knows a one-bedroom apartment.
There are a lot advertised on Watertown Neighbors. I see lots of apartments.
Yeah, but I can't see it, so I'll have to, anybody who sees something.
Okay, if I see anything, I'll forward it.
Yes, I'd appreciate that.
I have one other thing. Does everybody know that my email is janetcjameson@gmail.com? I don't use the other one.
Oh, no.
Because there's lots of stuff I'm not getting. I realized today with Laura. So could you all change that?
Janet C. James. Okay.
Andy, would it be possible to send like a contact info, like the list of everyone's email? Because I feel like several people have like several emails that I've seen on the list, and it is kind of hard to know which one's the right one. So if we just had like an up-to-date list in an email, I think that would be helpful.
That would be helpful.
That's 3 emails.
What's that, Laura?
3 emails. Don't you have 3 different email addresses?
Yeah. Yeah, all right. Anything else? No. All right, you have an item here about the September meeting. We should reschedule. Let me go to September. So it normally would be on the 7th. Is that what we're saying?
It normally would be on the 7th, yes, which is
All right. Labor Day.
Labor Day.
Isn't that
Yeah.
Labor Day?
Yes.
Yes.
This is always hard. We
So
normally,
can we move it to the 14th?
Yeah, I'm just, as we're speaking, looking at the calendar to make sure that we're not conflicting with anything. So just give me 1 second here. I should have done this beforehand. Fuel events, July, August, September. Okay, September 7th, closed. Town council is the 8th. You want to say the 14th?
Or during the week?
I'm sorry?
Or during the week if the 14th isn't available, which is possible.
I have a Zoom problem any other day that week. Town council, Concom, then historical commission. So they would all use the same thing we would, but the school committee does not use the same thing that we use. So I think we could do it the 14th.
Okay.
And we don't have fair on the square. So it can be
That's
late.
right.
Doesn't matter.
It looks like if we wanted, we could also do the 31st, but then that wouldn't really be the September meeting. But I'll bet that weekend's
And the other time is that we could do it as like the 9th or the 10th, if that works any better.
no, that was the problem, Maria, about the Zoom.
Yeah, I think we won't be able to get this and the WACTV because there's a meeting, Concom and Historical Commission on the 9th and the 10th.
Okay.
And Tuesday the 1st is the state primary. The 2nd and 3rd are also open, September 2nd and 3rd. If you wanted to go to Wednesday, Thursday, that week is.
Oh, okay. Let me look.
But
I'm for keeping it on the 14th, but
you're for what? What'd you say, Janet?
on the 14th, the next Monday, like we usually do.
Okay.
But if people are opposed,
So is anybody opposed to the 14th? Okay, so it's the 14th. And then, Laura, here, November, our meeting is election eve. Are
Oh,
we okay with that, or do we want to change it?
no,
Oh,
let's change it.
Oh, there's a planning board meeting on the 9th, it says. That's
Ooh.
Let's see, maybe we can change it.
a planning board meeting?
what the calendar says. That's weird because planning board is usually Wednesday. Why would that be? Well,
Can we put it for the 9th and
so
wait?
again, like that, yeah, the 5th looks open, Thursday the 5th.
Oh, that works.
Okay.
Yeah,
November 5th, okay.
Works for me.
yeah, I can do the 5th. So we're changing it to the 5th?
Who knows
problem?
what's happening?
Is everybody okay with the 5th?
Do you want me to find out why there's a planning board meeting on the 9th, and if there isn't, take the 9th, or would you want to go to the 5th?
Sure.
Yeah, the 5th is fine. I mean, that's fine as well. It doesn't matter.
So we're assuming these are going to be virtual Zoom meetings,
Yeah, I think
as far as the eye can see.
As far as the eye can see, Susan.
I can, I
Which in
don't,
my case isn't very far, but
I don't see it changing until next year in the summer.
I think we have to get a vaccine or a cure or something.
If virus mutation.
Pretty depressing.
yep.
Yeah. I think you can kiss Thanksgiving goodbye.
Aw, I love Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I do too.
All right. That's all the business that we have on the agenda, unless,
So what did we decide? The 5th or the 14th or when? Did we, November?
November 14th and November 5th.
Wait. I can't hear. What was it?
14th and November 5th.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, by the way, there is one piece of information. I just got an email from DCR. They're reopening Greeno Boulevard.
Boo.
Oh, no.
Yep.
When?
Starting today at 9 o'clock.
Probably because people are going back to their offices.
Maybe, but all I can say is it's summertime. What's like? There's that stupid road to reopen.
Yeah.
Oh, couldn't they at least keep it on the weekends? I mean,
I don't know. All I know is I got the email this evening and it says, here's what it says. Starting today, July 6, 2020, after 9 p.m., the Department of Conservation and Recreation will reopen Greeno Boulevard between Arsenal Street and North Beacon Street in the town of Watertown to vehicular traffic.
Is that the part that was closed for construction? Or
No.
no.
Recreation.
For recreation.
For all the right reasons. And it really made a difference to a lot of people with sort of, older school age, young teens, because it was really a place to be able to bicycle, and a lot of kids have a lot of time on their hands. So it's too bad.
I will forward it to everybody, and you guys, there is a contact person, Olivia Durans at DCR. We can just complain to her.
We should let
Why
Will
don't you
Brown.
Can we
send
put
her
this on the
link?
agenda for next month as well?
Yeah.
To
Why
talk
don't
about.
you send her an address out to all of us?
I'm sending the email out to everybody.
Okay, and she's the one that we could write something to?
Yep.
Okay.
Um,
Um,
to Will and John too. Will Brownsburger and John Hecht as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because I think Will Brownsburger's been a real, he invests a lot in working with DCR around
yes.
the kinds of things we want him to be working on.
And that road really isn't used very much.
No.
I don't know if anybody's as attached as I am, but my but the Mount Auburn closed and bought for
Yep.
$35 million by a
Yep.
developer. So I assume it's going to be condos or something.
I
You know, the
actually,
Mount Auburn
Janet,
Club.
I read maybe a, biotech space, more lab space.
The Mount Auburn?
It's prime landscape.
The Mount Auburn Club
Mount
is
Auburn Club.
closing permanently.
Yes.
But it's not sold. You don't know that it was sold.
Sold to a
Well, no,
developer
it said it
for
was sold for
megabucks.
$35 million.
It was sold to who?
For Alexandra Developing Company, I think it was.
They're the ones who own Athena.
That's lab space.
So they sold the Mount Auburn Club? Is that what I heard you
Yeah.
say?
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
The-
Wow.
The brothers made $35 million on a piece of property. They were good.
And the
guys.
Harvard Vanguard, Tufts Health Plan site selling. Watertown's, the East End's a hotbed of
It really is.
biotech.
Plan site is selling?
Pardon?
What?
The Tufts Health Plan site is selling?
Yes.
I did read that too.
They're merging with Harvard Pilgrim, and their headquarters are going to be in Canton.
Right.
Wow.
Wow.
Yep.
So who's going in the Tufts building? Who bought that?
I don't know. Bob, do you know? What Bob? Is Bob still?
There's
I-
no tenant. Okay.
Anyway.
Wow.
Change.
All right, it's almost 9 o'clock. There's no other matters to attend to. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye. If I see a hand, hands. We're adjourned. See everybody in a month.
Stay safe.
Okey dokey.
Healthy.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Good night, everyone.